You're listening to WSJK ESPN 93.5 Tuscola, Champaign-Urbana, your home for the St. Louis Cardinals.
Tom Telesco will return. The Titans fired GM Grant Carthon
to an adult film actress. According to Judge Juan Merchan, prison time is not likely.
Fox's Grinnell Scott, a federal judge in Florida, meantime, blocks the release.
No.
What the hell?
The election interference case. The other is the classified documents case. So neither of those went to trial. Judge Cannon told the Justice Department to hold off from releasing the report until the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals makes some sort of decision.
Fox's David Spunt. President-elect Trump spoke and took questions for about an hour at his Mar-a-Lago estate in Florida, talking about those investigations and also saying he would not rule out using military force to take control of the Panama Canal and acquire Greenland for national security reasons. Another suggestion?
We're going to be changing the name of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America, which has a beautiful ring that covers a lot of territory. The Gulf of America, what a beautiful name. And it's appropriate.
The first known map calling it the Gulf of Mexico is from the 1600s. It touches coasts in what are now 5 U.S. states to the north, Mexico to the west, and Cuba to the southeast. President-elect Trump has also spoken recently about the idea of making Canada the 51st state. Outgoing Prime Minister Justin Trudeau today on social media writes there isn't a snowball's chance in hell that Canada would become part of the United States. President Jimmy Carter's body is now being taken via motorcade to the U.S. Capitol Rotunda to Lions State for the public to pay their respects. America's listening to Fox News.
Hey, can you blow up some balloons for Jack's party?
I can't. I'm so congested.
You need Sinex Saline from Vicks.
Sinex Saline Nasal Spray?
Yeah, just Sinex. Breathe.
Sinex Saline instantly clears everyday congestion associated with colds and year-round allergies with a gentle, ultra-fine mist that's no mess and easy to control.
Daddy, we need more balloons.
On it.
Enjoy life's important moments without congestion. Try Sinex Saline from Vicks. Just Sinex. Breathe. Use as directed.
Millions of Americans take medicine like Ozempic and Zepbound. Many of them are overpaying by thousands of dollars a year. These GLP-1 medications for diabetes, weight loss, and more may not always be covered by your insurance, but GoodRx can help. GoodRx helps you save every month on prescriptions at over 70,000 pharmacies nationwide. Best of all, it's free to use. Check GoodRx to save on GLP-1s. Just go to GoodRx.com/GLP. That's GoodRx.com/GLP. GoodRx is not insurance, but can be used instead of insurance, including Medicare and other federal and state-funded programs.
Some numbers on online Christmas shopping are in.
Online holiday spending jumped nearly 9% during the 2024 holiday season compared to the year before, thanks in part to deep discounts and the use of artificial intelligence, according to Adobe Analytics, which found AI-powered chatbots helped spur purchases. The 8.7% increase translates to $241.4 billion from November 1st to the end of December. Electronics, apparel, and furniture and home goods were the top categories. And analysts finding that as prices of groceries and housing remain elevated, consumers are waiting to buy non-essential goods at times of the year they might pay less. For instance, Amazon Prime Day or President's Day. Lillian Wu, Fox News.
Immigration's a higher priority for some Americans than it was a year ago.
7 in 10 Republicans say immigration or the border wall should be a top priority of the incoming Trump administration. That's up 45% from just 2 years ago. When it comes to the economy, 80% of Republicans surveyed in a new AP NORC Center for Public Affairs research poll want the federal government to move that to the top of the list, with most Democrats also on board. But the poll found Democrats don't have a clear second priority, with 4 in 10 naming health care and health issues, and a third mentioning political issues, the environment or climate change or immigration. With about 2 in 10 Democrats considering immigration something that should be a primary focus for the federal government. CJ Papa, Fox News.
President Biden's trip to Southern California to announce the creation of 2 new national monuments today is canceled because of dangerously high wind there. We're told he'll speak about it at the White House next week instead. There are wildfires popping up around L.A., with wind picking up even more tonight with gusts 80 to 100 miles per hour. On Wall Street, the Dow's up 170, down 178. The Nasdaq's down 375. I'm Chris Foster, Fox News.
Hey, what's up? It's the Drive with Sam Piper, ESPN
Whoa.
Radio 93.5. Good to be back. Derek Piper from the Pacific Northwest. I'm exhausted. Let's get that out of the way on the front end.
Lonte from Central Illinois. I did absolutely nothing.
Yeah,
so
it's all good.
You at least got to see another part of the country.
I did, when it wasn't raining, which was a rare occasion.
How cliche.
Yeah, very by the reputation, so we're good.
I asked you, I'm like, well, how was it? That would be awesome. I've never been to the Pacific Northwest.
I hadn't either, no.
So it's just beautiful is what I've heard. And
it
obviously
is.
If it's raining, that kind of drowns that out a little bit.
Yeah, you got a lot of rain and fog, overcast.
Yeah.
I can only imagine what Seattle's like in the late spring into the summer, and you hear that it's paradise-like on the water. And very, very cool to see for the first time. You get the really tall trees. It's funny, I was getting ready to fly. A lot of travel, by the way. I don't envy the West Coast teams. Now, they're not flying commercial and taking a train from Portland to Eugene and those type of things.
Is that what you had to do?
I did do that, yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So some different tasks on my plate versus theirs, but it is a long flight, 4 hours from Chicago out there to the Pacific Northwest. But yeah, I said to my Uber driver who was dropping me off to fly to Seattle from Eugene, and I'm like, hey, look out there, the tall trees, the mountains, and he's like, hey, buddy, those aren't mountains, those are hills. Oh. And I'm like, well, where I come from, those might as well be mountains.
I was going to say,
as a Flatlander, he's like, yeah, the ones with the snow top are usually the mountains. Fair enough. Well, don't put too harsh on me.
Right,
as
thanks,
far
Uber
as that,
driver.
But yeah,
Yeah, sorry you hate the Midwest. Jeez.
I know. Yeah,
were they redwood trees? Is that what we're talking? Those real tall? Okay,
a lot of they're like pines, but they're really tall and thick, and
that would be awesome. So you flew into Portland.
And
then
the next day I took a train from Portland to Eugene.
Now, see, that would be how long was that ride?
About 2.5 hours.
That would be pretty cool, actually.
It was.
Like, I'm one of those idiots that nothing against Amtrak. Amtrak's a great thing, but I want to, like, for instance, I've always wanted to go to New Orleans, on that city of New Orleans. Well, guess what? The Arizona Cardinals play in New Orleans next year. So I thought, or next season. So I thought, you know what would be fun is to just jump on that train. I've always wanted to do it. Gives me an excuse now to go down to New Orleans. I've never been. And then the other thing I'd love to do is take a train through, like, Colorado. I've heard that that's beautiful.
No doubt.
And I would assume something in the Pacific Northwest. I mean, you talk about being able to see a lot of scenery without having to drive and without, just being able to kind of sit there and check it all out. I think that'd be kind of cool to do Portland to Eugene. You'd knock out two things. You just put something on my bucket list.
I know, right? I had myself convinced that I wanted to take a fishing trip out there.
Oh, that'd be cool.
You're making your way through, like, the tall trees and the lakes and rivers that you have going there. I'd have to check with my Uber guy to make sure I'm accurately describing that by the book. But,
those are baby trees.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
That's a pond. That's not a lake. But yeah, to spend some time there. I've never been a camping guy.
No, I haven't either.
But I would appreciate some hiking and
that'd be cool.
Throw a line in the water, and I'm sure you come out with some cool things.
I think guys like you and I would need to start camping in our backyard first.
For sure.
Just get a couple hours in one night, then head into the bed, and just kind of, just grow into it. Grow into it a little bit, then maybe venture out to, like, Oakland. Like, to that state park. Nothing too far. And then maybe in a couple of years we'll be ready to, hike and camp.
Surely there's some cabins out there somewhere. I could do a little cabin action.
That would be awesome.
Get a fire going. And,
I've always wanted to do that in, like, Wyoming or Montana. Something like that. Just go in the winter for, like, a week. Just, it would, like, you have this perfect scenario in your head of, like, you've got a fire going in the cabin. It's snowing out. There's deer walking by.
Yep.
I mean, it would be incredible. Of course, I'd get there and it would be like a heat. It's the hottest it's ever been. We can't use campfires now. We can't use any kind of fire, and there's no deer. I'd be like, okay, well, other than that,
no
the
doubt.
fishing sucks too. So, but no, that'd be so cool, wouldn't it? To just, like, chill in a cabin. As much as I love the beach, it'd be cool to do that sometime and just kind of relax for a week.
No doubt. I think Seattle on a boat would be pretty cool. I had learned that at University of Washington they do sailgating.
Oh.
So it's tailgating on the sailboats, so they can just pull right there to the docks, which sounds like a good time.
That would be cool. Who's the designated driver? That's the issue there, right? Who's going to do that?
Maybe you don't plan on, like, actually driving the boat. You just
sit
or
on the sail.
or you make your way to UW and then you leave it there maybe afterwards.
Sense. That makes sense.
I'm giving people the benefit of the doubt here that you don't got to make your way somewhere else. Or you just you find someone responsible or like an Andrew Tay who might take on the all right, he's got the boating license. He's not going to get too crazy.
Andrew, I told him, I said, you've got a chance to make some good money at 17 years old just driving people like me around.
For sure.
I mean, we will pay big money to make sure we get home safe and sound. So I told him, I'm like, that is something you need to check in on. I know a 651 said you can drink beer on the train.
Yep.
And the food is pretty good as well. I used to take, honestly, the train from Mattoon, sometimes Champaign, down to Carbondale constantly, and we would always be usually consuming on the train.
Why not?
So, yeah, Dad always acted like he didn't realize that we walked off the train with about 6 beers deep, but, he'd be like, oh, okay, interesting, Why don't I drive the rest of the way? Yeah, it's a good idea.
There wasn't much else to do.
Right. Yeah. There's not much to look at between Carbondale and Mattoon. I'm sorry, that Illinois is not that exciting.
No doubt.
Anyway,
Illinois basketball pretty exciting here recently.
Smoke.
No doubt.
Can I get your take, though, on the football game before we hit basketball?
Sure.
Because we haven't talked to you since the Citrus Bowl. We had Jay on yesterday. There's so many layers to go here. I'm like taking over this radio show because I want to ask you questions because I answered mine yesterday. First of all, was that not fun? The intensity of that game and where it came from. I mean, how many of us expected this? I mean, as excited as we were to play South Carolina, an SEC team, you'd never beaten an SEC team in the Citrus Bowl. For that thing to get where it went, Derek, I mean, that went from this is really cool to be here to where I want to whip their ass. I mean, that's exactly what it went to, and I'm so glad that happened, to be honest with you.
I loved it, and that's one of the things that number one, Brett Bielema, to get a program in those type of games, you very much appreciate, and the path up to that. But just the fact that he's a brash dude, he's confident, he's willing to mix it up, which he's still going at it day after day on Twitter.
That smile he had.
Yeah, which is great. So I know to literally, ruffle the feathers of the Gamecocks there, and Shane Beamer, Shane Beamer, the pitcher, Shane Beamer to really be rubbed the wrong way by that. Boy. It was one of those feelings, though, you better win the game now.
Yes.
Which you always wanted to, but that it would be – the heat would be on you the other way, and one that you wouldn't be able to escape from the social media area if you lost that, and you'd have South Carolina fans day after day, poking fun at that. But we've talked so much about non-championship bowl games losing so much luster and so much. It's really counterintuitive, and I was even talking to some people on this last trip about it, in that it goes against what we see in sports everywhere else, and that the postseason should be the biggest part of your season. And when you look at it, the Michigan game, given the rededication and who Michigan is and how they've been able to have your number forever, like I understand why that one was huge.
Yes.
But to face a ranked South Carolina team, one that was trending in such a strong direction down the stretch. They had an argument to say, hey, we maybe should have been in the college football playoff. If not, we were very much on the doorstep. To play that team, and it should feel like, in a lot of senses, that should be the biggest game of your season, biggest win you can get. So to have it play out that way, where Pat Bryant, big opt-out, but you move on without him, and you still have a lot there from the core that we came to appreciate for an Illinois team that was really good. And South Carolina had a few elsewhere, but it wasn't like, okay, they're missing half their defense and their quarterback, so they were at full enough strength that they could put a test out there for Illinois too. So love the intensity, love that Illinois came through and got it done. I picked South Carolina to win pretty convincingly for Illini Inquirer, was glad to be wrong, and just felt like a massive win, and Illinois got a lot of national love, not even just locally, and certainly the fans. I loved how much they got to enjoy that, but Illinois making their way back onto the national scene, and now that we've seen the news of Luke obviously coming back, but with Akis and Xavier Scott as well, J.C. Davis, there's a lot to be loving about what the future looks like too.
Well, and that was the next thing I was going to go to you about, and of course Illinois gets, Jay and I talked about the parallels Both programs looking for a 10th win for the 5th time only in their history. So one of those teams was going to get that 10th win. Luckily, it was Illinois. Both of those coaches came in with kind of similar records. They're both kind of situated in the same spot, with South Carolina kind of situated where they are in the SEC, Illinois in the Big Ten, although moving up. I think both programs making some strides in that scenario. So it is just one of those where you had so many parallels coming in, and then to have just a great game, 21-17. I love the storyline of Bielema. Finally, Illinois finally beats an SEC team. The MVP is his first recruit ever, and Josh McCray. It was just kind of a cool story. I thought Luke wasn't great, but listen, you're taking away Pat Bryant. I mean, you're taking away a really good receiver for him, and obviously Zakari had some great catches. Dixon with a great catch down the sideline. And Hank Beatty looking like he's looking. Aiden Lawfrey stepping up like he has. And then all of a sudden, Pipes, like you finish that game 21-17. The realization about 5 minutes later hit me that I got to spend $500 now. But I'm more than happy to do it, because Jay and I both yesterday. By the way, Stevie J is going to be the guy that makes the drawing for our 15 eligible people to join us next Monday. This coming Monday, that is, at Long Branch, and he's not here today. So we're hoping to get the drawing done tomorrow. We'll have the announcement hopefully tomorrow. We'll email everybody who has won the chance to go and eat dinner with Derek and Jay and I at Long Branch. I can't wait for that. But with all that aside, and then all of a sudden you take a breath, Derek, and you're like, holy crap, we got 18 guys back off that team that just won that bowl game. And you've got some kids coming in from Wisconsin to shore up that defensive line. Your secondary is too deep, is all back. You've got 4 linebackers back, and you're adding a couple
of receivers.
Yeah, and you've added a couple of receivers. Now, whether or not you've replaced Zakari and Pat Bryant, probably not. But the way Hank Beatty emerged late in the season, Colin Dixon, Malik Elzy, it's time for him. Now it really is time for him to take a stride.
Absolutely.
So you look at that and you start thinking to yourself, legitimately, this could be a playoff team. And now you go into that season next year going, we can't mess up. You can't lose to Duke. You can't lose here. If you lose to Ohio State at home, that's one thing. You can't do this. You can't do this. You can't do this. You can't have that Minnesota loss next year is what it is. But look, I was pessimistic. You know that going into the season. It turned out thrown into my face. Now all of a sudden I'm optimistic, so I hope that doesn't ruin it for everybody. So I will take the blame if it does.
Having a chance to think about it, I have spent a good amount of time reflecting back on the summer roundtable with Josh Whitman when he talked about the new what's coming as far as the landscape with college football, and certainly there's plenty that was hinted at or addressed where we're not at a point where we're drawing a line in Division I football and saying, or for specific conferences, there's no, what do you call it, where you have it in soccer and you got teams going up. There's no relegation.
Relegation, I always say it wrong.
But Josh essentially was saying we got to be above the red line. And I think the main message is we can't be left behind where we position ourselves on the forefront of this when you have revenue sharing coming in, when you have just all that has changed so rapidly in college sports that we got to be in a position where we are on firm ground.
Right.
And to have that be the first year of the new Big Ten and for Illinois to do that and then to be set up to where expectations are really high and for good reason the following year.
Yeah.
And that we're the expanded playoff is now a year and we're already projecting towards next year. That far old, and we've spent this past season talking about halfway through the year, 3/4 through the year, like Illinois could be
right in
that contention, and then next year already forecasting that and putting that out there. Like, how awesome is that?
It's incredible.
And that Illinois is ahead in the Big Ten pecking order of a team you looked up at like a Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Like they are in better position as it is right now, and they're even shooting higher than maybe what an Iowa. Although look, we take 9 wins every year, 8-9 wins, whatever it might be. But I just love the fact that where these things are going and how this is positioning for the new age and the evolving of college athletics. The Illinois football is right now in a position of strength and should have a lot of support in terms of the money that needs to be flowing in and just the perception of Brett and that program nationally.
Would agree. I mean, it's almost sobering, right, to a point where you never really thought that Illinois would be on the precipice of this kind of thing. And to now all of a sudden, like you just said eloquently, 2 years in a row now, you got a chance to kind of at least talk about it. And really, I think they should not only dream about it like maybe they did this year and maybe we did midway through the season. I think next year it's more of a reality with a chance of doing that, because I feel like in college football this year, and maybe just the playoff guys that did the seedings are just way off because like you've got like 5, 6, 7, and 8 or whatever in the Final Four. But I just never thought there was really that one team this season that just dominated. Maybe Ohio State is that. At the start of the year, we kind of thought that, and then they kind of went through their skid a little bit, but now all of a sudden they're back to where they are. But I just feel like there is the chance for Illinois to take advantage of this, and we'll see. I don't feel like the schedule's daunting. I don't feel like it's overwhelming, at least, to where you could get that done. But look, we got a long way before then. I know we got to talk Illinois basketball,
Sure.
but I wanted to get your take on that and your thoughts because – like Scott said earlier, there was a lot of winning that happened while we were gone. And it started to make me think, maybe we should just stop the show. Because if Illinois is going to win at this kind of a high level, maybe we are the issue here for the last 15 years. But I kid.
Well, one of the things I was thinking, maybe I should just stop picking Illinois to win because I picked against them in the Citrus Bowl. I picked against them at Oregon in basketball, and then we saw what happened there. So I may never pick Illinois again.
Well,
although I did against Washington, and they managed, thankfully, to go from huge lead to tie game to pulling that thing out and getting back home.
Hey, by the way, the Max Twin City Recycling text line 217 said if Pat Bryant has a bad showing at the Combine, is there a chance he comes back? I didn't think he had another year. I was thinking that,
right, yeah.
I think he'd exhausted. I know in today's day and age, you feel like a guy should have another year for some reason. Maybe
just take that thing to court.
Like Jay said yesterday, if you played 4 years at Champaign Central, then you actually get another year. It's just crazy the stuff you're looking at. But yeah,
isn't it somebody eventually is going to sue that it's against the law that there should be a limit on eligibility?
There's no doubt.
You're hurting my money making potential because you're saying that 4 years. Is the cap.
Yeah,
so someone's going to do that.
Somebody's going to do it, and I hope that they fight back on that one. I hope that that's the case on that. It's already gotten to the point where it's just ridiculous. But
how do you have a bad combine too? I mean, I know how you could. You could run a much slower 40 than you thought, but really, you kind of are who you are going in there.
Right.
Unless the spandex is a little too tight, not enough breathing room there, flow of oxygen. I don't know.
Can we do something about that?
We should.
I mean, do we have to continue to do that every year? But no, I agree. I mean, I kind of think you are who you are. I know sometimes guys show up a little bit better. Maybe they perform a little bit better in the combine than they had hoped.
Like a Tip Ryman is somebody that I remember prior to the combine and even the pro day here at Illinois. I know that Joey and Jeremy were reporting that, hey, his testing is in a really good position that will surprise people. There are those guys who just will in that setting give you some numbers that rank really highly, and you're like, okay, there is that portion of it too. It's not only just production. We talk about like upside and potential in college basketball to the NBA as well. Sometimes if you run a really impressive 40, and even though you don't have 100 catches, they might like, well, we'll work with that. We can work with speed.
Amen.
And add some of the other things that you might need.
I think NFL's, especially the scouts, could care less when you get to Indy about that you had 10 touchdowns for Pat Bryant. I think they could care less. I'm not saying somebody in the organization doesn't know that Pat Bryant had a really good season in terms of 10 touchdowns, but I think the scouts and those that are making the kind of the key calls there, they're just there to see Pat Bryant in person, see what he does. It's like we know what you did. We can look at that and understand that on game day you showed up, but we really want to see how you fit into our scheme here. Some teams might be looking for just a slot guy that's fast. Some teams might be looking for a Pat Bryant that can go down the sideline and make big catches. So it's so judgmental, essentially, as to where certain teams are interested in you and others aren't because they've already got you. So it's going to be interesting. But I think Pat Bryant for sure. I would love for him to be on my team because I know the Bears are full. at wide receiver. I think the Cardinals could use a guy like Pat Bryant, and it would be awesome to have a guy like that. It would be cool as heck.
Well, Keenan Allen may not be coming back.
Well,
so,
that's true. That's true. Gosh, how old is he?
He's getting mid-30s probably.
I was going to say, he seems like he's 48.
I know, right?
I mean, not from the look of him, but it just seems like he's been in a fantasy league of mine for the last 25 years. It's like, hey, somebody has Keenan Allen again. Shocking. I don't. But it's crazy. Anyway. All right, we got to talk.
Jay Lehman has a COVID year, I bet. Get him out there.
You know Jay would try it.
For sure.
He would try it.
Sure.
I think he might, though. He may even say, no, I don't
I think he might be
I think he's
better
doing well
off.
in the real estate game and feeling healthy. So
I don't want to eat that many raw eggs again.
Oh, boy. You know, our buddy Fred Wakefield, I mean, he flat out told me, he's like, I got to live in Arizona because my body aches too much. I've got to have that kind. He can't have Illinois weather. Can you imagine, like, your body dictated by that? I mean, maybe that's where I need to. I've got to be by a beach because the beer is always colder and it's just a little bit sweeter.
I like that.
By the beach.
Real quick, Max Twin City Recycling text line. We're getting a lot of texts in.
Yes,
Some
we
on
are.
basketball, which we will address here coming up. But before that, 630, one more year of 8+ wins, and we can say that we're officially at that next level with Iowa. That would be 3 out of 4 seasons, at least 8 wins, if they could do that next year.
I feel like they're tied right now with Wisconsin, right? You're kind of maybe getting ahead of them a little.
And the arrow for Wisconsin going down,
Yes.
as far as how they've been trending, Illinois going up, for sure.
I was still, when you look at Iowa's Big Ten record, it's still pretty impressive compared to what you have been the last 3 or 4 years. But I'm with the 630. Let's get another 8-win season. And can you imagine 8+ wins in 3 of 4 years at Illinois? And what we ask for? We asked for somebody to come in here and get us to a bowl game. 6 wins, 7 wins, and then, you know, while the kettle's hot, boom, nail down a 10-win season or a 9-win season, and all of a sudden to consistently win 8 or more. Yeah, I'll take that. And, you know, who knows? I mean, you kind of – here I am, like, with all these, like, welding analogies, but you struck iron essentially with Luke Altmaier for 3 years.
For sure.
Now you're going to have to replace him, and obviously you got some good quarterbacks coming up, but – you know, that is one of those where you look at this and it's almost like a perfect storm next year with so many, like Jay said yesterday, not only do you have all these linemen back, but they're back and they're not sophomores. Like, they're back and there's seniors and a junior. And it's like you're heavy skilled there, or you're heavy experienced there. You've got the skill at the quarterback position. Your running game, I think Jeremy wrote today, there's 1,500 yards coming back from just your running back room. So you've just everything's in place to have a magical season again, because I would consider this one a magical season to win 10.
Should be.
I mean, when it's only happened 5 times since 1900 or whatever, then I think that's pretty. You know, since you were playing a game at Champaign County Fair back in 1901 or whatever it is. So yeah, if you could do another one, that'd be awesome with me.
Is Illinois basketball trending towards a magical season?
Ooh.
That's something that we've known that going back to the preseason, the ceiling is really, really high. The end game could be really fun when you see who that team evolves into towards the end of the year and what they become going into that NCAA tournament. I wondered and questioned, admittedly, and I've used kind of the framing of this is going to be a process, and I've wondered about the roller coaster nature of the bumps in the road that would come and how long it would take to get consistency for this team. They might be ahead of schedule. They've won 4 in a row. They're 11-3 overall. They're 3-1 in the Big Ten. The schedule sets up for them to keep gaining steam here, and to go to Oregon, number 9 in the country, and destroy them. 32-point win. Send the fans that were there. I almost regret sending that tweet out. I don't know if you saw that. The video of the curtains in the second level. Oh,
yes.
And I ended up with a lot of Oregon people in my mentions and saying, you're way overlooking the impact of the Rose Bowl yesterday and the students not there. You know, regardless, Illinois might have caught a break. I think you always considered that going to a Big Ten venue and the students aren't in session. That certainly helps you. Not taking away Oregon could have had 100,000 people in that place, and if Illinois plays like they did, then you're not going to beat them. The 16 threes, just up and down the roster. In the early going, it was Jake Davis and Dre Gibbs-Lawhorn are carrying the way, and then KJ goes from scoreless at half to 16 points and doing his thing. Trey White's been really, really good. So what I'm getting at, and one thing I want to tackle as we go along in this show is Are we needing to recalibrate? At least me personally, some people out there may have. I know that some have framed Illinois as maybe the Big Ten favorite going into this season. Do I need to get to a point of saying this team might find consistency now? This team might make a run at a Big Ten title, at a top 4 seed or top 3 seed in the Big Ten tournament or in the NCAA tournament. Sure. Would it be a situation where they can be legitimately a 2 seed in the dance and have a really nice path to go then have the potential to go to a Final Four? So I think that's a conversation that I want to have. Of course, the games keep rolling pretty fast and heavy. You got Penn State tomorrow night. You got USC this weekend. And then next thing you know, a week from tonight, you're in Bloomington against Indiana. So,
wow.
That's it's going to be.
Is that right?
Yeah, it's going to be fun.
Can we just do our show over there?
I'd love to.
That would be awesome.
I'd love to
just go over to Bloomington and do our show and then just head to the game. That would be incredible. I haven't been to that assembly hall in a long time. That would be really
one of my favorite places to go, no doubt. Now, could we convince an establishment that an Illinois-centric show is going to set up shop at your place? That might be a little bit harder to pull.
That could be.
But
that could be.
No, you go to the Residence Inn and you do it from the lobby or whatever it is. No knock on the Residence Inn if there is one.
It's funny. I've been to the assembly hall over there twice. One was the game where Bobby Knight literally got 3 technicals. I know everybody says that's impossible, and he got booted out. And then the next, and Illinois won, and that basically helped win the Big Ten championship with Matty Heldman and that crew. And then the second time I went over there, Tom Coverdale, Kyle Hornsby, who was the other? There was one other guard. They set like a Big Ten or an Indiana record for most threes in a game. So I've literally been over there for an unbelievable memory for Illinois fans with Bob Knight getting tossed, Illinois basically winning the Big Ten title. I know they needed help that weekend, and then the next time we went over there, I literally put my camera down with about 12 minutes to play in the game because I'm like, all right, we're down 28 and Indiana can't miss from 3. I think I've got my storyline.
Yep.
I've got enough threes.
I've seen some of those. Anytime John Gross's teams went over there, like, Indiana's going to score 100. This will be a 25 to 30-point win for them.
Woo!
But
yeah, we'll do some research and dig in to see who would take us over there. What bar would take us? We could fill some Illini fans over there, I bet.
That's true. We could promise some road venue crowd.
That would be pretty cool. Of course, the bar might not like that, but they would like it. But you know what I mean.
Yeah,
the aftermath.
Maybe we promise. Hey, we'll get Jeff Rabjohns on from Peegs to do the Indiana perspective, and we kind of just do this. Let's just drum up the rivalry, even though
let's go.
People over there apparently don't want to call it a rivalry.
We'll get Luke on.
Yeah,
Luke.
Or we could say we'll do a 2-hour Mike Woodson bashing session. Perfect. That's what we're doing anyway.
We'll just give quarter beers out.
Yeah.
Have everybody come down and bash Mike Woodson. That'd be perfect.
No doubt.
I want to talk hoops with you.
You should. Matt says, was it Dane Fife making
Dane
threes?
Fife. Good call.
Yeah.
Good call. Now a Michigan State, right, assistant?
Or he was for a long time, but now currently I think he's coaching AAU.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, so that didn't go.
I thought
you were going to say now coaching Bowling Green.
He had a little bit of falling out. He went from MSU to Indiana. He was on Woodson's staff one year, and then they kind of butted heads. And
good call, Matt.
Yep.
Dane Fife, Kyle Hornsby, I think that was his name, and then Tom Coverdale. The redheaded. Everybody from Indiana's redheaded.
That team have Jared Jeffries yet? Or
I think so.
Yeah,
probably. Yeah. He probably racked up 12 assists just inside out game.
Mm-hmm.
Another 3 goes for Indiana. They're 16th. I think they had 17 that day.
Man.
Oh, well.
Crazy.
I've gotten over it.
Yeah, sounds like it. Illinois had 16 threes at Oregon. Did not shoot it very well at Washington, but found a way late game. A little bit of dicey execution, but then KJ steps up in the clutch again. We'll talk about all that.
I got questions.
We'll look forward to what we should be setting the bar at now for this team who has found some consistency and some steam. 4-game winning streak. Talk a lot of Illini hoops coming up next. 217-359-2255. Hit us up on the Max Twin City Recycling text line. We'll be back. This is The Drive.
You have money laying all around your house. You just don't know it. And no, I don't mean selling your great-grandma's good china. I mean all the old metal items you don't want to use or get rid of. Don't pay someone to haul it away. Bring it into Max Twin City Recycling and get paid to have it taken off your hands. They love new customers and are more than willing to walk you through their process step by step. Come check them out at 2808 North Lincoln Avenue in Urbana.
Starting it over is what we do at Max Twin City Recycling.
Illinois basketball season is underway. Single game tickets to see your Fighting Illini at State Farm Center are on sale now at fightingillini.com. Great seats are still available. Lock in your tickets for big games against Big Ten opponents before they're gone. Don't miss your chance to see the winningest team in the Big Ten Conference over the last 5 years. Be part of the atmosphere and get tickets at fightingillini.com.
Want unbeatable prices on your next furniture purchase, but also seeking that local hometown feel? Look no further than Kelsey Furniture in Tuscola. Customers rave about their friendly, established staff, as well as their great selection, amazing prices, and second-to-none delivery service. They're a third-generation local business, and they've always got your best interests at heart. Find the look you love for less. Open 9 to 5 Monday through Saturday, but always available online at kelseyfurniture.com. That's kelseyfurniture.com.
At Carpet Weavers Flooring and Furniture Gallery, we're flooring people with amazing service, great design advice, and unbeatable selection and the best prices in town. It's the perfect time to update your home with waterproof flooring, carpet, hardwood, tile, and more. Then complete your rooms by shopping our incredible selection of furniture and accessories. We also offer great financing options. Carpet Weavers Flooring and Furniture Gallery, we're flooring people.
At Pards in Urbana, the boots just keep on coming. They're known for their huge collection of men's cowboy boots, women's cowgirl boots, kids' boots, and even shoes. If you're searching for top footwear brands, look no further than Pards. They carry a wide variety, including Ariat, Dan Post, Smoky Mountain, Roper, Double H, and more. And if socks or accessories are what you need, they've got all your high-quality essentials. Since 1968, Pards has been serving their customers with high-quality merchandise. And if you haven't been to Pards in a while, a lot has changed. Go check them out just off University Avenue in Urbana.
Hey, Express Employment Professionals, your link to top talent and recruitment opportunities. Details at expresspros.com, giving you a chance to win tickets to the next Illini game. And here's what we need you to do. Just text Illini to 217-359-2255. We are handing out tickets today. Diane Ducey is there. She will orchestrate this. So just text Illini to 217-359-2255 for a chance to win tickets to tomorrow night's game against Penn State. I think it's an 8 o'clock tip. For some reason, they're all 8 o'clock to midnight, like somewhere in that range. But tomorrow is 8 o'clock at State Farm Center. Again, text Illini to 217-359-2255. If you give me music one more time, because, you know, theoretically I can't read this stuff without music. It just helps. We also are going to remind you to take the free shuttle to the home Illini games, leaving Pia's a half hour before tip-off and dropping you off at the State Farm Center Front Circle Drive. Our friends at Pia's taking care of you. Go eat dinner, have a few beers, or whatever you drink, and then just take the shuttle over to State Farm Center. It leaves, I think, 30 minutes. Yeah, I just said that. Half hour before tip-off, and then right after the game, they take you right back to Pia's after that victory to have a celebratory drink back at Pia's. I'm done.
Sweet. Back in the Drive with Sam Piper, ESPN Radio 93.5. Definitely take advantage of that.
Noise, right? I can't stand just... That's one of those.
It ran out there, and then a professional like Kyle would have just clicked the button again and potted it back up. But I needed the verbal cue.
Exactly. Yeah, I just had to literally hey, sometimes you have to produce as you go.
Yeah, no doubt.
So that's what we did.
Get what you want, no doubt.
It worked.
Absolutely.
So, I got questions for you.
Let's do it. Let's dive right in.
Can we start with the Washington game because it's first on my mind?
Yeah, for sure.
And then we'll get to that Oregon game, which was just a colossal blowout by Illinois, which was incredible. I don't even know how you describe that game. I mean, it's just, well, we didn't miss. It's that simple.
Pretty much.
So Washington, first of all, the emergence, and I don't mean emergence, but it kind of is, the consistent emergence of Trey White. How big is that right now? Because this is a kid coming in, Derek, I'm giving you props. You were the guy that said, I guarantee you Trey White starts on this team because he's going to give you the experience. He's played in these games before for USC and also Louisville. So he's got that experience at this level to give you what Brad Underwood would want on the court. And he's a guy that can do a little bit of everything. Now, early in the season, I said this yesterday. I didn't mean like unathletic. He's not unathletic. He's obviously athletic. But I pictured Trey White as a little bit different. I pictured him living above the rim. He doesn't necessarily do that.
Right.
But, man, he's a dog when it comes to just when you need a bucket. He was getting you a bucket at Washington when you needed it and some key rebounds. And now all of a sudden he's emerged as a guy that's just like, 2 straight double-doubles for this team, I believe, on this West Coast trip. And, what's almost great about it is, and I know that there's only so many of these new Pac-12 teams you play, but it's kind of cool that Kylan and Trey already have a history a little bit with those teams and know a little bit about them, which I think gives you a little bit of an advantage, I would think, that going into those kind of games. So I'll start with Trey. Did you see this coming with what he's doing now, and is this something that is sustainable for that kid?
I don't know that I saw it at that level, especially because he wasn't passing the eye test early.
Right.
Now, I think we've learned now, and I think in hindsight it's even easier to accept, where some transfers through the first 2 months, what they show you isn't necessarily month and a half, 2 months, whatever you want to call it. And even for Benham Rickhouse, who had a huge breakout at Oregon,
right,
doesn't necessarily mean that's who they'll be the rest of the season. There have been examples of that. Marcus Damas didn't become the type of first-team All-Big Ten guy immediately.
No.
Now, he had the Florida Atlantic game about a month into the season last year, 33 points.
Okay.
It's pretty good. It's a little bit different than what Ben had been doing, obviously. But Alfonso Plummer, another example. Jacob Grandison, another example. Some guys have taken some time to really settle in. So I've known that Trey is capable, but it almost was like, okay, is he just a physically built 6'7" guy who's played in a lot of games? It just will be, to lack of a better way to put it, like forgettable on a lot of nights, and that's what he was early in the season. But now I think he's got an understanding of what his role looks like. Now it's a pretty versatile one. He can do a lot of different things. I just appreciate a lot that he doesn't need a bunch of plays drawn up for him. Like he doesn't need to know that I'm getting 10 shots in a given night and here's how they're going to come. He's just going to go out and get some offensive rebounds. When he sees a lane to the rim, he's going to attack, which is good for a team that wants to shoot a lot of threes. You need somebody to go to the rim and draw contact or finish, especially when you're running in transition. And then he's made some of those gritty effort plays that we know that Ty Rodgers was giving you last year, that we kind of thought, could Trey White be a better shooting, just more offensively, more of a presence version of Ty Rodgers, and that's what he's become essentially. I mean, to be able to on that last possession, in the Washington game in particular, yes, he throws it away on the inbounds. I know Brad afterwards also gave criticism to KJ kind of not understanding that you can go into the backcourt and have it not be a backcourt violation.
Those international kids.
I know. Apparently the rules are different.
Trade him.
Yeah, right.
Get rid of him.
Exactly.
Cut him. No, I'm kidding.
You probably shouldn't just throw it out there and let it be an easy layup line. All the game's tied now. KJ then, of course, makes the play. But Trey, to strip the ball out of DJ Davis's hands, man, he was torching you. And then to wrestle it from Washington,
Incredible.
two guys that were in better position than Trey to get the ball. Trey comes out with it. So he is just kind of, he's a dog. And
I agree.
He's started about 70 games at the high major level now, and you're seeing that where he looks like somebody that's been around the block a couple of times.
It's interesting, as 651 said, Trey's the guy that we all wanted Kipper to be. Now, Kipper did have a couple of games, right? I mean, we don't want to take away some of the things that he was able to do, but I get where they're going there on that. And Dan said Trae finishing around the rim has been a huge difference maker. I agree. I mean, while he doesn't live above it, not many do. He's always able to convert at the rim and some tough little 2-foot layups that are contested, in other words, and those aren't always the easiest thing to do when you're getting hounded. And you just broke that down perfectly with Trey White, but also the defensive play where he legit didn't foul him. And he was all ball, and then, like you said, just got down on the ground and said, this is my ball, this is my win, we're going to get this done. And it led, I think, then in KJ making a layup that put Illinois ahead for good. But, yeah, just little things like that Trey has done, especially on this trip. I mean, those are huge, Derek.
I think the last 6 games, he's averaged around 15.5 points and 6 rebounds per game.
That's, jeez.
And if you go back to the first 7 or 8 games, he's in that like 6 points per game range. So he's more than doubled his production, and he just is somebody that can do it in, again, different ways. He's got the pull-up jump shot that's pretty consistent as well. Turnaround jumper can back you down a little bit, but it is really the presence at the rim.
Without a doubt.
Is to be able to go there, be physical, and finish. Kylan's getting to the rim a lot, and he's just smoked a lot of layups, unfortunately. Not to pinpoint him and knock him because he's done a lot of really good things for Illinois. But outside of that, you don't have a ton of guys that are getting downhill at that rate. So it's a good complement to, KJ's going to have the ball a bunch. Kylan can have it. You got different three-point shooters, but somebody that can just attack when that's there and not necessarily, again, need it to be dictated by a play or like, all right, Trey's going to get his now. It's him just kind of picking spots in the game and showing up.
What do you notice defensively with Trey? Because when this season started, I looked at him as a guy that would give you some strength, as a guy that could handle a 4, guard a 3 or a 4, kind of give you that strength. I guess if you absolutely needed it, he can maybe go bump with a 5 if needed. But he's a guy that is strong, and he's got a base to him. Have you noticed that Illinois is essentially using him as a key component of defense, or is he kind of – sometimes they, like me, for instance, when I played, they hid me on like the worst player, as a chance to say, Lon, just don't embarrass us on that end and then help us out a little bit offensively. So, I mean, how do you see Trey? Are they throwing him in the fire in terms of having to guard some of the better?
Recently, yes.
Okay.
I was discouraged after Northwestern that he didn't have barely any possessions on Martinelli, and it was mostly Humreckhaus. And I'm like, why? If he's not going to be that matchup, if they're not comfortable putting him on Barnhizer, or because Kylan took the Barnhizer matchup and then Martinelli got a lot of Humreckhaus, if that's not Trey White, then do they just not trust him at that end of the court? So early in the year, there was some like, okay, he looks the part, like he's a walk off the bus. He's 6'7" and built and has some athleticism to him, even though, like you said, he's not a jump out of the gym type of guy. So I wondered about that. But here recently, really as soon as the next game, he helped Illinois guard John Tonje from Wisconsin. That was an effort. Both Kylan and Trey took that on and made it tough for him. Somebody that scored 30-plus points for the Badgers and got to the free throw line a lot. Illinois didn't foul him and threw physicality at him as well. And then I think he's showing better awareness off the ball because there's been times where he's not in the right position, or he got lost in a couple of the Bama threes that they ultimately allowed because he wasn't having good on-ball positioning and whatnot. So I think he's shown better over the last month to where he can take on some better assignments. But really, I give him credit in that Washington game because instead of hugging to that corner, he saw that Humreckhaus on a switch got beat by Davis. He comes down, rakes the ball, and like you said, got all ball, then got on the floor and made an extra effort play.
The guy that impressed me the most in the Oregon game, I know I'm shifting back now, defensively was Humreckhaus. Believe it or not,
big time.
He was guarding the post. He was forcing his guy, contesting him at the rim. He had some rebounds. I mean, I thought Ben did a great job in that Oregon game, and plus on the other side of it, knocking down shots. And, when you look at the two – and I am jumping, and I said I wasn't going to do this, but you look at the two games, like the Thanksgiving Day, massacre, although it wasn't, of Arkansas, and then, of course, the game against Oregon when you've got Brickhouse hitting threes. We've said, or I've said at least, I'm not throwing you under the bus on this, but I've said that this team, I think, is at its best maybe when Brickhouse is doing his thing. And I think those are two really good proven games. I don't know how I'm saying that. But anyway, like those are two examples where that is the case, where you beat two nationally ranked teams easy. And Brickhouse was a huge part of that because he was knocking them down. So, but I do want to give him, I said this yesterday to Jason and Jay, I'm like, I want to ask Pipes about that defensively with Brickhouse. Have we turned a little corner? Look, there's outliers. Like Missouri, I think, was a little bit of an outlier where they just literally just went at him every time and scored every time. But the Oregon game was like the opposite, where he really held his own defensively. I think he's in between that. I don't think he's horrible. I don't think he's great defensively. But I don't know. Has he made a little bit of a turn, you think, for this team? And I guess I'd give Brad and the staff credit because I'm sure they're on him pretty hard in practice.
For sure, yeah. No, I think he showed a lot more toughness in that Oregon game than what we'd seen previously. Yes. And I wrote it in the preview for Oregon. They post the ball even more than Purdue does. And we know that Matt Painter, you can just pick any given year, they're like towards the top, if not the very top of the country, and how much they want to just kind of old school bully ball you around the paint. And Oregon does a lot of that. And we saw them try to attack Illinois at the rim, they were 11 for 25 on shots literally right at the rim. So Illinois, it wasn't just obviously Ben and Merez in there, Tommy in there, but Ben was really showing that he could wall up at 6'9" and not get knocked off, and just, again, show a lot of toughness and size there to contest and make it a defense, which that's a theme in itself, how good the defense continues to show itself. I know had some slippage against Washington to not be able to slow down Davis, but ultimately, I think that is a step in the right direction for Ben, who you still don't really want him having to get out on the perimeter and do a whole lot, like guard in space. There are times where he doesn't get out to shooters in time on a closeout. But you kind of knew that going into the year that would be a limitation. But if he can be a guy that just doesn't get flat out physicaled around the basket, then you can live with that for sure if he can wall up and then grab an occasional rebound.
I don't mean to laugh at this with Ben Brickhouse, but I think I told you the story that my two boys were sitting there talking, and we brought up Andrew, my youngest, and I said, Andrew, your defense has been really good inside. I mean, he's had to bang against 6'7", 6'8" guys, and he's only 6'2". And then I followed it up with saying, I think you're the worst perimeter defender I've ever seen. And I'm like, I said, have you talked to Coach about that? And he looks at me and he goes, he knows what he's working with. That's exactly what he said. Coach knows what he's working with. And I think that's a perfect example of, like, Brad and this crew kind of understand what they're working with there. Yep. And you have to, right? You can't put guys in position to fail. And so that's why it's important to kind of understand what we need to do with Ben, and to have a guy like Merez to be able to then come in when needed. And you know, it's funny because I think this is the key for me, Derek, and I wanted to ask you this to start next hour. And I know you still want to talk about, like, the where this team is and where we thought they should be, and are they much better than we thought in terms of consistency. But it's this team, like I was saying yesterday, the depth is there, don't get me wrong, but it's the ability every game to someone to pick up where someone's not. And I don't know what that term is, but it's like, if this guy's not doing it, then Merez does it against Missouri. If Ben's not doing it, Merez does it. If Merez isn't doing it, Ben does it. If this guy's not doing it, Jake Davis does it. I mean, it's just been amazing how maybe it's not everybody clicking at the highest level, but when someone is maybe not having their type of game, there is always someone there to step into that role and take it over and do it especially well. And it seems like that's been the case, especially here down the stretch in this winning streak.
Absolutely, yeah. Now you're starting to see, there was a point in time probably less than a month ago where, like, well, this team is not nearly as deep as we thought it would be.
Right.
And maybe it's not to the point where Illinois has to play 9 guys and spread out the minutes and, like, well, the starters aren't going to play your typical 30 minutes because we've got to get this second unit even more and more, although they've come on well. But it is that dynamic of different guys can step up, and Brad can gauge who's giving what, and maybe a guy is hot off the bench to step in there another example of that, you give a good one with Merez for sure, but like if I would have told you going into Oregon, who was number 9 in the country, that KJ's not going to score in the first half, you'd be like, are we down 15?
Right.
20? But Dre Gibbs-Lawhorn, who had never had a double-figure scoring night against a high-major team, has that against Oregon and was just breaking guys down off the dribble and the sweet spin moves. And like you said, Jake Davis, too, with some putbacks and threes. And that's another example of – and even in the Washington game where Kylan gets 2 early fouls.
He didn't do anything in the first half.
And Dre comes in and helps you not have that dip that you would normally expect first unit to second unit. That's been a big thing as well, big theme, and credit to Dre as somebody we know is very capable physically and has flashed some different things that he can do, is now starting to put it together.
It's so weird in that Oregon game. I think it was Oregon or the Washington. Either way, the announcers they essentially said, Dre's the leader of this team. And I was like, okay, well, I guess I'm not saying he's not, but I hadn't really thought of that. And then I was like, well, he is the only returning guy that's playing.
It's true.
I mean, it hits you every once in a while, and it kind of goes to what 630 just said. Is there a precedent for having 11 new players on a roster with this level of success, i.e. top 15 ranking almost halfway through the season? I mean, that's the funny part, that we understand everybody's new, but when they literally said that about Dre, I was like, well, I don't know, but well, hold on. I guess he is the only guy that's back from last year that is actually playing, because Ty isn't.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of funny. It's
amazing to think about it. Like, Dre played 7 minutes a game last year, and he's the only guy back from that Elite Eight team, obviously because Ty's not contributing on this squad as he redshirts. But I would, of course, Kylan to me and it seemed pretty played out both publicly in terms of an eye test, but also in what they've said, and that how many times he was at Big Ten Media Day, that he is the leader of the team if I were to pick one. But I do think emotionally, anytime Dre's on the court, you definitely know it. Like that dude is playing with a high intensity level, effort level, and I think there's something to be said for him being kind of a tone setter guy.
Good call.
In terms of, and that there's some leadership that can be translated to that as well. So
I bet he's not quiet on the bench either.
I wouldn't think so.
I bet he's able to get his point across to. I'm sure he wants to play 40 minutes a game.
Why wouldn't you?
Why wouldn't you, right? And I'm sure it's a little bit difficult for him to swallow this role that he's in, but he's also has to look out on that court and understand that there's a guy in front of him that's going to be a top 10 pick probably in the NBA, and another kid in Kylan Boswell who's played at a high level here for now his 3rd season in college basketball. So it's not as though, it'd be like Kyle looking at the skills of you and I and assuming he should get more airtime. That's not even close. Oh, wait. Mitch did say Derek and Kyle know what they're working with, and that's so true. That's so true.
That's fair.
Thompson said yesterday, he's like, what would your hit rate be on shows if it wasn't in Philo? Literally 6 blocks from my house.
True. Okay.
I'm like, maybe 1 a week? I don't know. I don't know what I'd be doing there. So, yeah, we're pretty fortunate. In fact, I've got like a haul here for the next 2 weeks. Kyle being gone, he's not coming back till Martin Luther King Day, I think.
Okay.
And then I've been just digging everywhere to see where I can go that's warm. It coordinates literally with there is a 6-day stretch where Andrew doesn't have basketball, and I'm like, if I'm going to get away.
Prime window.
Yeah, but then everything's so cold in the country. I almost need to get out of the country.
Okay.
That seems a little iffy these days, though.
Sure.
How's Turks and Caicos sound?
I would say that sounds pretty good. That sounds pretty good. A lot more basketball to talk. 217-359-2255. We'll do that next. Got a lot of text still to get to. Send those in on the Max Twin City Recycling text line. We'll be back. This is The Drive.
Take charge of the years ahead with a smart, sound investment strategy and business succession plan. Busey Bank's business and wealth management experts help you envision your best future with powerful insights and proven strategies. Building business and growing wealth since 1868. Busey Bank, proud to be the official bank of the Fighting Illini. Member FDIC.
Hey, where are you headed?
To Kelsey Furniture in Tuscola.
What do they have there?
What don't they have there? Living room furniture, benches, chests, love seats, sectionals, tables, bedroom sets, hutches, nightstands, end tables, cabinets, mirrors, stools, clocks, lamps, pillows, rugs, desks, media consoles, patio furniture, Tempur-Pedic mattresses, and more.
So, everything.
Yeah, probably could have just said that.
Kelsey Furniture, quality for less. From computer systems to brakes and tires too, at PDR, fixing cars is what they do. Remember, when you turn the key and the car won't run, call 367-9481 or use their dedicated text-only line at 383-0619. Additional information including repair quotes and online scheduling requests available from the website at pdrauto.com. Remember, they are what's best for your truck or car. They are PDR. You're listening to WSJK ESPN 93.5 Tuscola, Champaign-Urbana, your home for the St. Louis Cardinals.
Family plot next to his wife, Rosalind, at a national park named for him in Plains, Georgia. Speaking to reporters in Florida, President-elect Trump won't say he would not rule out using military or economic force to take control of the Panama Canal and make Greenland part of the United States. It's a territory of Denmark now.
People really don't even know if Denmark has any legal right to it. But if they do, they should give it up because we need it for national security. That's for the free world. I'm talking about protecting the free world.
The entire federal judge, for now, is blocking the release of final special counsel investigation reports on President-elect Trump, and a court in New York says his sentencing on criminal hush money charges may go ahead Friday. The Biden administration is asking a federal appeals court to block a plea agreement for 9/11 attack mastermind Khalid Sheikh Mohammed and two co-defendants that would spare him the death penalty. President Biden's trip to Southern California to announce the creation of 2 new national monuments today is canceled, the White House says, because of a big windstorm there. There are brush fires breaking out.
Southern California is under a red flag warning. CAL FIRE revealing with strong Santa Ana winds and low humidity, any spark could lead to a fast, uncontrollable wildfire spread. The National Weather Service says parts of Los Angeles and Ventura counties could see wind gusts of 50 to 80 miles per hour, with isolated gusts up to 80 to 100 miles per hour in the mountains and foothills. Fox's
Kristen Goodwin in L.A. America's listening to Fox News.
Hey, can you blow up some balloons for Jack's party?
I can't. I'm so congested.
You need Sinex Saline from Vicks.
Sinex Saline Nasal Spray.
Yeah, just Sinex. Breathe.
Sinex Saline instantly clears everyday congestion associated with colds and year-round allergies with a gentle, ultra-fine mist that's no mess and easy to control.
Daddy, we need more balloons.
On it.
Enjoy life's important moments without congestion. Try Sinex Saline from Vicks. Just Sinex. Breathe. Use as directed.
Did you know you can get your prescriptions for less at your local pharmacy? You can with GoodRx. It's the free app that can save you money on your medications. Just search for your prescription, choose the pharmacy and the price that works best for you, and then show your GoodRx coupon to your pharmacist at the drop-off counter. GoodRx works at over 70,000 pharmacies, including Walmart, Rite Aid, and Walgreens, and it works whether you have insurance or not. It's easy to save. Next time you drop off your prescription, check GoodRx. To start saving today, go to GoodRx.com. GoodRx is not insurance.
The House passes the Laken Riley Act, the first bill passed since the new Congress took over Friday. It's named for a Georgia nursing student murdered by a man in the country illegally.
The vote on the House floor, 264 to 159. There were 48 Democrats who voted yes. When they passed this bill in March of last year, there were 37 Democratic yeas, so this goes up a little bit. This bill would mandate detention for illegal immigrants arrested for minor crimes. We do expect this to go to the Senate. There's bipartisan support for this in the Senate. John Fetterman, the Democrat from Pennsylvania, he has signed on to this bill as well. We've learned that Gary Peters, the Democratic senator from Michigan, who faces a challenging re-election bid in 2026. He has also signed on to this bill.
Fox's Chad Pergram at the Capitol. It was a down day on Wall Street.
Stocks selling off and Treasury yields spiking as investors wait a batch of upbeat economic data that raised concerns that an inflation rebound could slow the pace of monetary policy easing from the Fed. Stocks giving up earlier gains after a Labor Department report showed that job openings unexpectedly increased in November. Getty Images stock jumping 24% after agreeing to a merger of equals with Shutterstock with an enterprise value of about $3.7 billion.
The Dow winners Amgen, Johnson & Johnson, and JP Morgan Chase. The Dow decliners Nvidia, Salesforce, and Home Depot. The Dow falling 178 points. The Nasdaq lower by 375. S&P 500 down 66. Hillary Barsky, Fox News.
A Florida grand jury investigating COVID vaccines has its final report unsealed. It was convened at the request of Governor Ron DeSantis to look into any and all wrongdoing concerning COVID vaccines, and the report finds no evidence of criminal activity, but says there are profound and serious issues with the United States vaccine development process and safety surveillance. It recommends more transparency around clinical trials and a ban on advertising pharmaceutical drugs. I'm Chris Foster, Fox News.
It is The Drive with Tay and Piper, ESPN Radio 93.5. Let's keep talking Illini basketball. 11-3, 3-1 in the Big Ten. Back in action tomorrow night, 8 p.m. tip-off against the Penn State Nittany Lions. We talk a lot about Maryland being a thorn in Brad Underwood's side. Let me give you a stat here, and we'll have plenty of time to break this game down tomorrow in terms of what Penn State brings to the table. A team that just lost a close one to Indiana over the weekend.
Right.
Indiana 3-1 as well in the league, but we know they've gone through some struggles here. 14 games, the last 14 that Illinois has played against Penn State. How many do you think Illinois has won?
I hate doing this to you, but Jason Thompson actually brought this to the table yesterday.
No.
Yeah, so
good work,
Penn
Jason.
State has won 10 of the 14.
10 of the 14.
That blew my mind yesterday. It still blows my mind today. And I knew that it had been a struggle. I mean, I know that it's been a struggle with Penn State a little bit, but I had no idea that they wrecked you like that, winning 10 of 14. That's almost embarrassing for a program that has won the most Big Ten games over the last, 3 years, 5 years?
5 years, yeah.
To then have that record with Penn State. I mean, if you're the Nittany Lions, you're like, who knew that we would dominate the best team in the Big Ten the last 5 years?
No doubt. Yeah, and it's been 4 straight wins for Penn State, even as recent as you go to last year. They beat a Illini team that went to the Elite Eight and really owned them 2 years ago. Now, that was an Illinois team. Did go to the tournament, 9 seed, but they had the 3-game sweep. Champaign, State College, then Big Ten tournament in Chicago.
Right. I do remember that. Oh, my goodness.
Andrew Funk and Seth Lundy. And
who could not miss. Funk could not miss.
Jalen Pickett scores like 40 in one of those games.
My goodness.
I think that was the one out at Penn State. But anyways.
And Ace this year, I'm getting him confused. It's Ace Baldwin.
Ace Baldwin, yeah.
On Penn State. Ace Bailey on Rutgers, who just went for a big total against Indiana the other day, I think. But Ace Baldwin is the guy that you look at as someone that you feel like can score 16 a game, and he can. But he also can get you 13 assists and maybe only 6 points and still be the key to Penn State winning. But, Kern looks good. They've got a couple of bouncy guys underneath that are fairly decent. And, they're just – I said yesterday they're all kind of the same dude. And they're just frustrating to play. And I don't think Illinois is going to have I think the winning streak comes to an end for Penn State, to be honest with you. And we can talk more, like you said, tomorrow. But – It is outstanding how Penn State has played against you, and not outstanding in a good way if you're Illinois.
No doubt.
Outstanding for the Lions.
Right. Well, we can play that into a point that I made. We don't have to use this whole segment to break it down, but for Illinois to come back home and take care of business, to win the games you're supposed to win, which you always want to do, obviously, if you're trying to compete for a Big Ten title, if you're trying to further – cement your resume as one of the better ones out there. As of right now, Illinois is 7th in the net rankings. You look on KenPom, they are 11th. They were 13th in the AP poll that came out yesterday. And if you look on KenPom and they project spreads and just overall standings, Illinois, I believe, is right there with Michigan, projected at 14-6 in the league. So they're saying as of right now, they think that Illinois and Michigan will share the Big Ten championship.
Interesting.
Which maybe should have happened in 2021. Anyways.
He's working for you now.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Kevin Warren.
Oh, by the way, congratulations on the Bears beating the Packers.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I
When it doesn't matter.
I know. When it
but
matters
does.
as little as it could have. And probably even hurt us. I don't know. I hadn't studied the draft boards enough to how many picks did we fall back
I know,
in the
but
first.
it
doesn't
still
matter.
matters.
Oh, yeah. It felt good. I barely got to see any of the game.
Yeah, I was
did
gonna
have
say.
it on press row at Washington and saw that we went from up 10 to then somehow losing.
Oh, yeah.
And,
I thought, here we go.
Yep.
Here. I know my buddy, Mark Silverman from Sylvie and Waddle, he showed a video on Twitter of his kids who are younger going just crazy. And then he had another post about how he and his wife and the kids all went out for dinner and they were toasting a Bears win. And I was laughing because, he is as big of a Bears fan as anybody I've ever met. And I'm like, it matters. It matters to
definitely
beat
matters,
the Packers.
yeah.
And I understand the gist of it. The Packers still going to the playoffs.
Yeah, Jordan Love was out for most of that game.
Right. But it's still good deep down.
It still feels good.
Yeah, right.
It's still don't get me wrong. I appreciate the congratulations. I appreciated the win.
I didn't mean to get you sidetracked there, but it just literally hit me. I was like, well, wait a minute.
Right.
I forgot to congratulate you on that. So.
Thank you very much. I worked hard for it. But I've suffered long through too many of the ones that go the other way.
Correct.
But with Illinois, consistency, should we raise the bar of what we expect? We know what the high point can be for this team. We know where this team ultimately can trend in the NCAA tournament. And again, I said that to give credit to some listeners out there, if it does play out this way, some have already profiled Illinois as maybe they because the talent on the roster should be the favorite in the Big Ten.
Right.
Should we start to think that way? Are you comfortable enough to say for a team that went to Oregon and did what they did, for a team that even though they let it get dicey against Washington, they pulled it out, should we expect this squad to find that level of consistency and have it not be as much up and down at this point in early January?
I say yes. And there's a couple of reasons why. Number one, I think this team, as somebody pointed out earlier, 11 new guys on this squad? It was going to take some time, right? And it was going to take some inconsistencies, a loss to Alabama, a pretty big loss, although Alabama's good, we know that. Then all of a sudden a blowout of Arkansas, you win that game by 13. You score 90 in that game, and it was still kind of that roller coaster ride. And I'm not saying that the Oregon game isn't a little bit roller coaster, but everything else has been really solid, and then all of a sudden you showed what you're capable of doing against Oregon. I think the game against Tennessee, where they should have probably won that game, I think that kind of was the game to me that really, by then I thought to myself as I'm watching this, the roles are identified. This is KJ's team. I'm not saying that Kylan, this isn't, I know there could be an argument there, but KJ's the guy that makes this go, right? I think we all know that.
No doubt.
We know what Ivisic brings. We know what Merez brings off the bench. I still like to see some more consistency out of Rickhouse, and I think he's getting there to that point. But obviously you see the emergence of Trey White and what that means to this team, the bench and what they've been able to do. But I really feel like after that Tennessee game, you went and played Missouri, and Mizzou, we never know about that game, right? And being there at that game was awesome to watch. And look, Missouri brought it that night, and so did Illinois. I mean, I think both teams had no reason to hang their head leaving that court that night because I thought both teams brought it. Somebody had to win. Missouri had a chance to tie on a last-second shot, which was fitting, to where that game was. But I thought Illinois showed some resiliency in that game when Ben was just getting taken advantage of, and Merez came in and really gave you a lift and gave you spirit. And then Kylan kind of took over, that game late. And then, of course, Chicago State, whatever. But then, of course, the game against Oregon is just like, that's ridiculous. 109 points, 109-77. That was a 9 o'clock game at night. I stayed up for it. And when Illinois was up like 95-58, I'm like, I think I'm going to bed. I think if they lose this one, I'm glad I didn't see the end of that. And then to Washington, and here goes my last point, and then I'm anxious to hear what you say. The Washington game just turned into one of those nail-biter, grinded out games. I know somebody earlier on the Max Twin City Recycling text line mentioned that game reminded me of Northwestern, and I was getting ticked as I was watching it, and I'm with you on that. But, Derek, the thing that's impressive to me, and I used this yesterday. My dad always used to say when it came to Cardinals baseball, you go to the West Coast, and if you pick 2 or 3 up against the Dodgers, you just gained a game on the rest of the league.
No doubt.
Because not many teams are going to go to the West Coast and win 2 or 3 against the Dodgers. That's an example. So for Illinois to go to Oregon, ranked at the time, 9th in the country, and then a Washington game after what Brad Underwood described as it wasn't like an NCAA game, day off game. It was game, day off game. And Brad said that was really tough. I know you were sitting right there listening to him. I'm not telling you anything. But for them then to just kind of get out like they did with the lead, and it almost looked easy. Like to a point where in the first half you're like, well, I mean, I don't even know if this is going to be that exciting to watch. And then all of a sudden Davis went off, which is going to happen on occasion. But for Illinois to kind of at the very end just kind of do what they did. Trey White with the big defensive play. KJ makes that nice play. They make their free throws down the stretch. And it just got out that win to where you go 2-0 on the West Coast. And I go back to what my dad said. How many teams are going to go on that stretch and win 1, let alone 2?
Yep.
And some may go 0-2 on that stretch.
As Maryland just did.
As Maryland did. So, in other words, you picked up 2 games on Maryland right there, essentially, on that stretch. And I think for the rest of the season, you've gained a game on anybody. I don't know if Michigan State does that. I know they're imbalanced scheduling and such, and I haven't looked into it enough to know who has to do that stretch. But good luck. I think anybody that has to do that, you've picked a game up on in the Big Ten. And when you're trying to win a Big Ten title, that's huge. You kind of made up for the Northwestern loss, even though I think Northwestern's going to be tough to beat. By the way, Barnheiser, did you see his teeth pop? I mean, what in the world, dude? Oh, I felt bad for him. But anyway, he'll have pretty new teeth going forward, so. I feel bad for him, though. That stinks.
Get ready to learn hockey, buddy.
Right.
But, yeah, I mean.
are great.
Regardless, if you're a team from the Midwest, you're going to have to make either one of the trip to Oregon and Washington or USC and UCLA.
Is that how they're doing it?
And UCLA is a team that is pretty comparable with and maybe even tougher than going to Oregon ultimately. So to your point, there won't be many teams you'd expect that go 2-0
sweep it
on that swing for sure. So I do think there are a number of reasons why this team is equipped to be consistent starting right now. Number one, I think defensively, they continue to show that they're a lot further ahead than they were earlier in the year and where we expected them at the start of the season. I mean, for them to be top 15 in the country right now in defensive efficiency, and I don't think that's fool's gold in my opinion.
I wouldn't have believed that.
No, it's shocking. Kylan is that good on the perimeter. You've got size at the rim with Merez and Tommy, and Ben has helped you in that regard as well recently. Trey's a pretty good defender here has gotten better for sure.
And Dre off the bench.
Off the bench. To your point also, guys being able to pick up for each other on given nights when you have a depth like that. And another thing is, how many Big Ten games are no matter how they work their way, it can even be wonky like the Washington game where it's a blowout and then all of a sudden it's a tight game late. We saw some of those when Illinois has gone to Purdue here recently. They're down like 50. I know it's not actually that much, but 15 to 20,
like it.
And then it's a one-possession game with 2 minutes to go. You have a guy in KJ who is ready for that moment.
Yes.
And has succeeded. I'm not putting him in Io's category yet. Io had quite a resume that was established for a while. But to all of a sudden you throw the ball away, the game's tied, Washington's on an 8-0 run, and KJ just kind of casually goes to the basket and makes a shot. He makes a turnaround jumper against Missouri after Missouri tied the game.
Good call.
That's something that I didn't know that he'd get there that fast. Whew. And he's obviously really, really talented, and he's putting up great numbers in his own right. So I do think it's something where Penn State, because they're tricky, because I think they're one of the sleeper teams in the Big Ten, although I think people are recognizing them a little bit more. Tomorrow night's one of those where if you're really going to be a consistent team, you got to show up and win that game. I think it was Scott's point, said next week at Indiana is one of those. If you're going to really be a Big Ten title contender or favorite that's a game you need to win.
I'm with you.
So it was actually Wes that said that.
What a test that'll be for Avicic against Ballo.
Yeah.
Ballo's huge.
Yeah, he is.
I'm sorry, I'm getting way ahead of her.
But still, I think it's still one where I'm not entirely ready to say it's going to be smooth going forward. I'm not saying that people are going to frame that either. We understand what the Big Ten is. It's a grind, and there's a lot of challenges, and you can't take anything for granted on the road or anything like that. But it's kind of crazy for me to look at KenPom right now and say that Illinois is projected to be a favorite in 11 of their next 12 games.
Wow.
Doesn't mean you'll win them.
Right.
But that's just how you're stacking up right now.
I just did a quick thing after the Ohio State game on February 2. You should be 10-2 in the Big Ten, getting ready to go to Rutgers in Minnesota. And that's giving you one loss to either Indiana or Michigan State on the road.
Yeah.
Michigan State's good.
They are.
And Indiana won't be easy to win there. We know this. I believe in this team, Derek. And it's because of the defense, like you brought up. I can remember that game after Alabama. You were driving back. Kyle and I were sitting here, and I'm like, Kyle, until they can prove that they're anywhere close to a good defensive team, I don't know that I'm going to give this team that much of a leeway in terms of just expecting them to win. Because at that point, they couldn't stop anything. And I thought to myself, we're supposed to forget this game. That Ole Miss game when they couldn't stop anybody. And I'm like, what am we watching here? And now and I know Davis went off on you, and he did it against Kylan, and he did it against Dre, who came in, and Brad was doing everything he could. He called a timeout and just absolutely chewed everybody. I mean, on TV, you could see it probably in the gym, but on TV, they weren't showing him. And then they go to Brad, and he's as red faced as your sweatshirt right now. Mm-hmm. And then I see Marty Kaufman and Josh Whitman behind the bench, and they both have like these wide-eyed, like holy crap, did he just go off on those guys? But I know what he was saying. Somebody get in his grill. But, sometimes guys just go off.
They do.
And you can do whatever you want. I mean, we saw it with Shannon last year. We saw it with Damask at times. You're seeing it this year with KJ and other guys. But sometimes guys are just going to go. They're just going to have a game. I mean, and there's not much you can do. So you just try to limit what they can do and then hopefully contain everybody else. But yeah, I mean the defense this team has the improvement. Excuse me, let me start over. The improvement that this team has shown defensively gives me the idea that this is a team that can win a Big Ten title. It's as simple as that. And so that would answer your question then is, do you trust this team down the stretch, essentially? Yeah, I do. I mean, you've got all the pieces, right? You've got Kylan, who's experienced. You've got KJ, who's a top 10 guy in the NBA, and he's showing it. It's so fun to watch him. Avicic is really good. Somebody brought up earlier about his passing and how smooth he is. And even at the end of the day on a not great game, he's got 9 and 9, right?
No doubt.
It's just like, he's got 9 points, 9 boards. That's pretty good. I don't expect Trey to continue at this level, but if he does, goodness sakes, I still don't think he's got an assist this year. Trey White. I'm not dogging him. He gets the ball, it's my ball, and I'm taking this to the rim, and you know what? Lately he's been scoring, so nobody's going to say a word.
For sure.
The only guy we got to get going is Riley, right?
I know. Yep.
And that's kind of I don't want to say it's the elephant in the room because it hadn't been an issue. You've still been winning games, but it's kind of weird how he's just continuously regressing to the point where, like, when I watched him in that Washington game, I immediately was like, he doesn't need to be out there. And that's weird. Like, and that's got to be hard for him. He's got to be going through it right now.
You can visually see it, right?
I bet.
I mean, he just – the good thing is that you have other guys that can pick it up, that he's not costing you games.
Right.
So you're not adding that weight to him. Like, well, until I pull myself out of this, we're going to – flirt with being an NIT team, which is kind of what like Michigan was dealing with when they had like Jet Howard, although Jet Howard had a really nice freshman year, Caleb Houston, to go through some of those scenarios. The good news is nobody is questioning the talent. I don't think. Everybody knows that he's a talented shot maker. It wouldn't be a surprise to me if by the end of this month he is into a rhythm where he's someone off the bench that is going to make a push for 10 to 15 on any given night.
I mean, we
Not saying
waited
every night, but any given night.
We waited for it with Ben, right?
Yeah, right.
And then it happened.
Exactly.
So I'm already calling it. Saturday against USC, I think Riley gets double fit. I think he goes for 16 to 20. Okay. That'll be the perfect game. Get a lead on USC.
Yep.
And then let Will get in there and just relax and just do your thing. Do your thing in front of the home crew. Go at it. So I'm just calling it's my hot take of the day.
I like that. I like that for sure.
Penn State will be tricky, though.
It will. They turn you over a lot. They're a good defensive team. I think another thing with you outlined it a little bit with the schedule of what's coming up ahead as well, but the Big Ten, which I will give credit to, Michigan State's better than I thought they would
Agree.
be. I don't see them as like a national player, like a go deep into the tournament type of team, but they're a tough physical team with some good athletes. Purdue is certainly no surprise to anybody, or people were kidding themselves. Like, hey, are they going to not take a significant step back without Edey? Yeah, obviously they are. Indiana's nowhere close to the team that I thought they would be going into this year. So there's some of that, too, where you're talking about winning a Big Ten title. That helps. That's not to knock Illinois at all. It's just to say that there isn't last year's Purdue team, and there isn't a dominant contender against you. UCLA looks pretty good.
Yeah.
We'll see how they continue to push forward. That's part of it as well, I think.
And Malik being, I can't ever say his last name.
Renew?
Renew. I always say Renault, like he's an inspector. Inspector Renew. I wonder if Illinois is going to catch a break and not face him.
That'd be big.
He got hurt in the first minute of that game, and then he sat out this last game. Now, they said on TV that it wasn't something they were worried about being long-term, but does that mean he's back tomorrow, or does that mean he's back in a week and a half? And if you can get the week and a half and avoid Malik, then that makes that team a lot easier to beat. I mean, because then you can concentrate a lot more on Ballo underneath as opposed to having Renew and him. And we know what Mbako can do. Look, I'm getting way ahead of that. I'm like literally zoned in on Indiana already.
We usually are around here with that game, right?
Nothing against Penn State and USC. And Penn State worries you, especially with what they've done. And it'll be kind of cool to get USC in here for a game.
And I'm hoping that there's not that, even if you're mentally ready for the Penn State game, if there's not kind of that physical letdown. And again, I have different travels in the team. The team was back safe and sound on Sunday night. I got in. I had the flight to Chicago, and you drive. Like I'm feeling it personally. I don't have to play tomorrow night. You guys are lucky for that. But I wonder. It feels like a little bit of a quick turnaround off the West Coast, then to come and play Wednesday night. I wonder. You want to avoid some kind of letdown spot, either not having your game or whatever it might be.
I think you're bringing up a good point, like that could be part of the battle. And now I'm not looking at it the other way, because I feel for those teams too that are coming this way, USC, UCLA, all that stuff. But it's almost like a 3-game stretch where you've got the 2 games out west, and Illinois went 2-0 there, and then you get the return jet lag game, which is Penn State. So you wonder if you go 3-0, you ring up 3 wins in that stretch, and then you're kind of back to normal by Saturday. That'd be interesting to kind of follow along this year. The teams that go west, see how they do, and then what do they do when they get back home?
Definitely.
Against. Now, we're not as bad as Penn State. I mean, it's a quicker flight to Chicago than it is going even further out east. So there's a little bit of a break of being a Midwest school, like kind of smack dab in the middle.
No doubt.
But I'm with you that. I think that is true. Now, they're younger than you.
Absolutely.
I don't mean to point that out,
great.
Pipes.
No, that's great.
But it's still.
They
I
get
think,
to sleep at home. They don't walk into 2 young kids who are excited to see you, which I love. But
right, that is another.
That's another difference.
Yeah, without a doubt, because those kids are just super excited to see Dad. So it's like, you guys want to sleep?
Yeah.
What was it? Was it Vacation or whatever when Chevy Chase gets stuck in the desert and he walks that whole way and then he finds his family? He's like, "You guys thirsty?" Because he's been without water. Who wants to take a nap with Dad?
Yeah, right. That didn't work last night, by the way.
I bet. No, I'm sure they were fired up to see Dad.
Yeah.
Which is awesome.
No doubt. Well, let's get thoughts from Brad Underwood coming off the return home from the West Coast and going into tomorrow night's game against Penn State. We got plenty of texts that we can still get to before the end of the show. 217-359-2255. Hit us up, Max Twin City Recycling text line. Brad Underwood, who spoke to the media today, You hear that next. It is The Drive.
You've set your financial goals. One kid plans to go Big Ten, the other Ivy. Your bucket list includes seaside sunrises and sunsets on the slopes, or perhaps a second home away from it all. Busey Bank can help develop the right investment strategy to take charge of the years ahead. Busey Bank, building business, growing wealth since 1868. Proud to be the official bank of the Fighting Illini. Member FDIC.
At Pards in Urbana, the boots just keep on coming. They're known for their huge collection of men's cowboy boots, women's cowgirl boots, kids' boots, and even shoes. If you're searching for top footwear brands, look no further than Pards. They carry a wide variety, including Ariat, Dan Post, Smoky Mountain, Roper, Double H, and more. And if socks or accessories are what you need, they've got all your high-quality essentials. Since 1968, Pards has been serving their customers with high-quality merchandise. And if you haven't been to Pards in a while, a lot has changed. Go check them out just off University Avenue in Urbana.
Switching is easy. We do it all the time. We switch on the lights. We switch TV channels. Some of us switch partners while square dancing. Well, that's a stretch. But what's not a stretch is how you can switch and save with State Farm. In fact, State Farm agent Kurt Lenschow right here in Champaign-Urbana can switch you over so you can start saving today. Kurt and his team are ready to welcome you to the State Farm neighborhood. It's easy to switch and save. Just give them a call when you want the real deal. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Did you know that routine maintenance on your furnace helps improve air quality in your home? Along with making sure your furnace is operating at maximum efficiency, Dogtown Heating, Air, and Plumbing wants to make sure your home is as comfortable as possible. Voted People's Choice #1 HVAC and plumbing company for the third time in 4 years, let the expert team make sure you'll be warm all winter long. Call 217-841-4728 or visit dogtownheatingandair.com. Book your appointment today. Dogtown Heating, Air, and Plumbing, your home's best friend.
Hi, I'm Tyler Weaver, president of Carpet Weavers Flooring and Furniture Gallery. It's time to come home to Carpet Weavers. We don't want you to just like your new floors. We want you to love them. From waterproof floors and carpet to furnitures and design advice, we've got a team of experts on your side. We'll get you the best price and the best quality products. And complete your home with furniture and accessories. Buy it all with free financing too. Come home to Carpet Weavers, where floors, furniture, and family meet.
Thank you for choosing 2 Men and a Truck. How may I help you?
Hi, I have a strange question. I'm moving my business. Can we stay open while we're moving?
That's not strange at all. With over 10 million moves completed, we understand that moving your business can be a daunting task. We offer a range of services that help keep your business running during the relocation process. We can help you pack, move, and unpack so you can focus on what matters most, your business.
Not sure how your move is going to work? Go to 2menandatruck.com for your free estimate.
Good morning, First Federal Savings Bank. How may I direct your call?
Speak with friendly, real people during lobby hours. It matters when you call First Federal Savings Bank of Champaign-Urbana. A real person located at the bank. Not a recording answers your call during lobby hours. Personal, friendly service makes a difference. 217-356-BANK.
Thank you for calling. Have a great day.
Rated 5-star superior by Bauer Financial, Inc. Fast, friendly, and local with local loan decisions and underwriting. If you're not already banking with us, give us a try. We think you'll love it here. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender. NMLS 435120.
It's obviously nice to get back home, and snowy, feels like home. So good trip out west, obviously, and coming out of there with a couple of wins, drastically very different games. I thought we did what we needed to do in the Washington game. We got off to a great start. And then I thought we got a little uncharacteristically sloppy. Maybe it was a little easy early. Watching the film, I thought we got the same shots we got at Oregon. We just didn't make them from three. I thought we got really good looks. But give Danny credit. They found some things defensively that are working for them, and Osabar didn't affect the game offensively, but defensively he was terrific. But then we withstood early foul trouble from Kylan. I think that's one of the positives. You had KJ in foul trouble at not hardly playing in the first half at Oregon and Bam at Washington. But very different games. I was excited to see that part of it, to be quite honest. I think we had 22 straight points against Washington in the paint and at the free throw line. Even though we shoot threes, a game we didn't make them, we still found a way to win and be efficient and be effective. And we've obviously did a really good job. I thought Tommy was excellent in his rim protection against Osabar. I thought that we lacked a little focus in guarding Davis, letting him come off some screens, making some mental mistakes there. But I thought that all in all it was solid effort. And then obviously KJ made some important baskets late, and then we made free throws down the stretch to handle that. But now it's Penn State. They're good. They've got some veterans. They've got some guys back, led by Ace. They're a team that I compare a little bit to Missouri in terms of the way they play. They've got 5 guys in double figures, so it's not just Ace. The big kid from Northern is impacted their team a great deal with shot blocking, with rim presence. He's had a 15 rebound game, and he's helped solidify them on both ends of the court. So a well balanced team. They're going to press. They're handsy, and we're going to have to be ball tough and play. They're right there with us, averaging 88 points a game. So they like tempo, as we do, and they've got quality depth. So the DeLeon kid transfer from Tennessee has been very effective as well. So they've hit the home run with a couple of their transfers and impacting their team at a very high level.
I mean, Penn State probably has maybe as much continuity as anybody in the league, just with the guys that came back. How much have you seen that maybe being a difference for them?
Sure. I think it's all a positive. I think anytime you get continuity, there's nothing bad about that. And Mike's in his in his early status of his career, early place in his career. So having that continuity and that carryover is huge, and especially when it's led by one of the better point guards in the country in Ace. So it's nice to have, and like I said, they've done a really good job of blending the transfers in and putting the pieces to that puzzle together very well. Mike hasn't won 400 games in his career because he's a bad coach and a bad recruiter. He knows what he's doing. So that's a big part of it. They got a lot of veterans.
Do you think your defense would be where it's at this point in the season?
Hopeful. If you'd asked me after Ole Miss, no. I think it's all a part of our growth. I think that Zach Hamer and our staff have done a really good job of building what our fundamental base is, building what our continuity is. I think that we're fortunate that a very little thing called communication and talk can be the difference between a good defense and a bad one. And you can have great individual defenders, and I think we've got a few of those. But our communication is tremendous. This is a talkative group. They're loud that way. So we try to eliminate mistakes, and it's helped build our defensive chemistry, maybe at an expedited rate.
You said obviously after Ole Miss you weren't particularly happy with where you were. When did you maybe see that flip on for you guys?
It's just a timing thing. I think that patience is not one of my virtues, and I think it's one of the things I felt really comfortable with is we had some individual defenders, and I thought that, positional size and length and some of those things we had, but developing chemistry is really hard, and it just takes time, and I think we're a better team than obviously we were then. I think we're a better team since we played Northwestern. I think we're a much better team now than we were when we played Tennessee. And I think all of that just is put in place by time. And when you don't have a tremendous amount of continuity, a lot of new faces, time does nothing but help. But it's a tribute to our staff and most importantly our players, because they're willing listeners and they're trying to buy in on that end, and it's allowed us to be in the spots we're in.
I guess continue on that front. Early, was it just the chemistry part that maybe you were concerned about? Were there other things defensively that you just didn't maybe have a clear idea of heading into the year?
I think we thought we were going to be a better rim protection team than we were a year ago. That was obviously a bugaboo. Last year it was something that we didn't do. Late we relied on Coleman's hands and his anticipation. So we had to scheme a little more with that. So I thought we had that. I was pretty confident that what we were getting with Bam, in terms of an elite on-ball defender, and there was enough evidence of what he could be. But I think that we knew that size would be there for us. It was just a matter, I think Will's just leaps and bounds better defensively than he was even a month ago. I think that Kasparas has proven that he can really guard. We knew what we had in Draven, a guy that could hawk the ball, but the freshmen have done a tremendous job. Merez has been really good, and Tommy's just so smart, and he's 7'1". So it's just a culmination of time and experience and growing and getting better on that end.
Coach, you said the other day that there was a difference between playing hard and competing to win for your guys. What does that look like to you?
Yeah, we're not there yet. You can play hard, and you can, and our guys are playing hard, and we demand that every day. That's who we are. The saying, everyday guys exist around that. But I think competing to win is the play Trey White made at the end of the game, diving on the floor for the loose ball, first one on the floor. I think it's the going to offensive rebound, even though you're blocked out, and trying to get the ball and doing your job. I think it's sitting down and taking pride in guarding the basketball, not needing help. That's competing. That's the little things when you've got the mindset that I'm gonna win and do my job so our team can win. And you guys can go out and play hard, but you can also play hard and not be very competitive when it comes to the outcome of something. And this group is learning to fight, and I don't want you to just block out. I want you to block out and go get the ball. I want you to handle a ball screen coverage and not let them score. And do everything I can. Sometimes they score, and it's next play. But the mindset of competing is a real lost art, in my opinion, and one that we're getting better at. We play hard, but we've got to learn to compete, and we got to do it for 40 minutes. We can't take gaps. Right now we're a 32 to 34 minute a game compete team. We got 6-8 minutes a game where we've got to be better.
Along those lines, several of your recent teams that have been successful have done that well. Have you found that it is something guys have to buy in to being the competitive plays? Is it something you have to instill and It just takes time?
Yeah, and some of it's ingrained. Some guys some guys will know how to do it, some guys don't. And everybody says playing hard's is a learned skill today. Maybe it is. Winning's really hard to do, and you have to teach that. And sometimes you've got to learn how not to lose before you can learn how to win. And this group is playing hard and they're competing. Now, how damn tough can we be for 40 minutes and not get up 27-10 and have the mindset that it needs to be 38-12 or 38-14, and we're not going to relax. We're going to put our foot through the floorboard, and that's competing, and that's not resting because something became easy. And we've had that. I look back just last year. I mean, UConn was probably as good at it as anybody in the country. That's the next step for our team is that level of competition and competing and not taking a play off.
Penn State, I think they're top 10 in turnover percentage and defensively. What do they do so well on that end, and how will that challenge your guys tomorrow?
Yeah, they're going to pick up full court. They're going to run and jump. They'll allow you to turn the ball over just by mentally, not being sharp. They're very much like Missouri. They're going to deny passing lanes. They're going to crawl up in you. They blitz ball screens, which we just saw from Washington. You're going to have to work for your catches. When you drive it, they're going to swarm to the ball. They're handsy. Ace has been used his quickness and speed to create opportunities, and now they've got some rim protection with the big kids. So they do a little bit of everything, but it's like I said, it's nothing we haven't seen. We just saw the denial and the hard pressure, and I thought we did a great job in the second half of that game with only 4 turnovers. But more of the same coming.
A couple months ago, you said you were looking for the next Terrence defensively. Have you found that offensively with KJ being trusted with the ball in late game situations?
Yeah, I think offensively, it comes in every game has its own identity. KJ's really good. I think that the him and Kylan and Trey, to be very honest, I mean, those two, as much as the Davis kid impacted the game offensively, we went right at him at the other end, and it was those two guards, down the stretch. I mean, they were tremendous. Tommy had a couple threes that we thought were in, and we ran a play to get him a three, and it just, loop-de-loop, and came out. But all three of those guys are very, very capable, and they've all hit big shots at different times throughout the early season here.
Got a lot of games in a short window here. That's not atypical for this time of year, but is that a factor, if at all, in these games right now?
Only if you let it be. It's a Big Ten. It's what we all signed up for. It's we've got unbelievably good presence in Paul Schmidt, Joey Biggs, Adam Fletcher, doing all this. We had 5 games in 12 or 13 days last year. We've got them this year a couple of times. Guys would rather play games than practice anyway. And let's go. We go every day anyway, so it's not that big a deal.
Fans online, they've been loving DGL and Jake Davis. What's it like to have, depth on this basketball roster, and how would you compare this depth to other teams that you've had at Illinois?
What do they like about him? I don't read it, so I don't know. I kind of like him too. So, they liking him? What? Because they scored a couple baskets? It's good. We don't win 2 games without Draven. Draven was tremendous, and I thought decision making was good. I thought his decisiveness was great. I think the game is slowing down for him, even though he plays very fast. You're hard pressed to find as good an athlete as there is, as he is, and at any level. The block he's made in a couple games, the dunk, his speed, his quickness definitely impacted both of those games. And he's a very good isolation player. So I think he's, my comfort with him is growing, and then I think the game is slowing down, and his decisiveness and decision making has been really good. Jake just does what we ask. And he does it at a really high clip. And, we tell him to offensive rebound, he offensive rebounds. He gets 2 or 3 deflections that lead to easy baskets for other guys. Other than the bad play made in the Washington game where he let the Davis kid rip off the baseline and he was in la-la land, I guess is the best way to put it. But he's made a lot of really good plays. He's a terrific shooter. He's a great feel guy. He has what we call great next actions. He creates looks for people. So I've been very, very pleased with both of those guys. And you combine that with Merez and Will, it's made our bench very, very productive.
The way Dre kind of snuffed out 2 fast breaks by Washington by himself, is that skill, art, technique, some kind of combination of that?
All of the above, and then really, really good genetics. When you can run really fast and you can jump really high, they missed the block. I mean, and Earl told me he missed the block. I mean, I think he, you go pull that up on any highlight, and I mean, you see him on top of the ball. But his quickness and his speed allowed him to make the steal and the deflection, and we get to see that every day, and he dunks on somebody a couple times a week in practice, and so we're not shocked by that either. He's a very, very gifted athlete, and and now those are competitive plays. Those are the plays you talk about. You can just play hard, but now you go compete to win a game, and you make that block, and you make that steal or get that deflection. And those are the things that Dravens has learned and is doing now, and it's impacting our team at a really high level.
Attention drivers. When it comes to your car, trust matters. That's why savvy drivers choose PDR Automotive for top-notch service and unbeatable quality. From routine maintenance to complex repairs, their team of expert technicians has the skill and experience to keep your vehicle running smoothly. At PDR Automotive, customer satisfaction is their priority, and they won't rest until your car is back on the road performing at its best. Visit PDR Automotive in Urbana today, family-owned and operated for more than 50 years. They're what's best for your truck or car. They are PDR.
Sarah Champagne Managing Partner Ben Quattrone on why integrity is important at Sarah.
We hire the person. The person makes the deal. The person makes the department. The person makes everyone around them treat people with courtesy and respect. If you have a quality human being, you can play any position, right? We're talking about sports. They can perform in any department, and I could teach someone a job, but I can't teach them to be a good person.
Learn more at sarahchampagne.com. That's SERRA champagne.com.
Good morning, First Federal Savings Bank. How may I direct your call?
Speak with friendly, real people during lobby hours. It matters when you call First Federal Savings Bank of Champaign-Urbana. A real person located at the bank. Not a recording answers your call during lobby hours. Personal, friendly service makes a difference. 217-356-BANK.
Thank you for calling. Have a great day.
Rated 5-star superior by Bauer Financial, Inc. Fast, friendly, and local with local loan decisions and underwriting. If you're not already banking with us, give us a try. We think you'll love it here. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender. NMLS 435120.
Tapman's Towing, team of experienced tow professionals, is seeking others with CDLs, previous tow experience, and or strong interest in serving others. Please visit our career page at tapmanstowing.com.
Honest, professional, and affordable. That's what you get from Classic Plumbing and Air. Done right, guaranteed.
I'm Ty Rogers. I'm a basketball player from the University of Illinois. Juke out the competition and cross over to Classic Plumbing and Air. Take a shot and call Classic Plumbing and Air. At Classic Plumbing and Air, it's done right, guaranteed. We care about your air.
So if you need help with your heating, air conditioning, or plumbing, connect with Classic Plumbing and Air at classicplum.com.
Back on the drive with Sam Piper, ESPN Radio 93.5. Good stuff from Brad Underwood, who spoke to the media today at State Farm Center. We will talk a bunch more about Illinois and Penn State tomorrow as the Illini will take on the Nittany Lions, 8 p.m. Central there at State Farm Center. That's Big Ten Network, tomorrow's game between the Illini and Penn State. Did have a few more texts before we get out of here that I wanted to get to. I know 217 says, Derek, any basketball players showing bad body language on the sidelines? Anyone not really happy even when the team wins? Admittedly, I can't say that I've really seen it personally. Not to duck it, because I know people have said it when I've seen some of the comments on X and on our message board that Kerry Booth maybe isn't showing the most enthusiasm. I could understand somebody that started 19 games for Notre Dame last year, played 20 minutes per game as a freshman, and now in a very small role off the bench for the Illini, that he's maybe not loving life right now, and wouldn't blame him necessarily for it. Now, to flip it on the other side of it, he's got to be better. When he's been out there, you just have not seen a guy that has looked the part of an experienced high major player for whatever reason. It is a new situation, and Brad's talked recently about guys that are obviously in bigger roles like Ben Humreckhaus, Trey White, that it takes time for a transfer to find that comfort and to understand their role. But for whatever reason, he hasn't played with the motor that you want to see for a guy that's pretty athletic ultimately and can move around really well and vertically can explode above the rim. I think mostly, though, offensively, I've looked for him to be a spot-up shooter. Thought that – I know the staff could kind of seen a play style similarity between him and Coleman Hawkins as that stretch four, step out and shoot the three. Not really expect him to do a whole lot with the ball in his hands outside of that. There were some moments where he could, if there was a driving lane, to attack the basket, and had some highlight finishes, a few of them, last year at Notre Dame. And then defensively, mobility-wise, being able to switch and cover a good amount of ground. And the staff had been telling me when I was checking in back in the fall that he was maybe, at that point in time, the team's best rim protector. Obviously, in game action, we've seen Merez quickly, as soon as night one, has taken up that mantle and is by far and away Illinois' best shot blocking presence. So I would say Kerry Booth would be the candidate there. I don't know what to take from it other than when you have a deep team, a talented team, it can be hard to crack a rotation for everybody to establish themselves and play the roles that you want to play. What that means beyond that, we'll see. We'll see if he can be somebody that contributes later on down the season, if you get into foul trouble, if he progresses a little bit more. I will say that was one thing that I loved about Dane Dainja last year, is that while he certainly couldn't have been happy with playing 10 minutes, sometimes less in a given game, and I think it would be clear to say he wasn't always the happiest after a given night, that he didn't play a whole lot, but stuck to the process, continued to keep his head in it, and knew that he could help the team, which he did immensely in the postseason, and his contributions were vital. I have no expectation that Kerry would do something similar. It's just it's clogged up there in the front court with Tommy and Merez at the 5 and Ben playing the 4 along with, and then you cycle in whether it's Trey going to slide down, or you have Will out there with one of Ben or Trey. So it's hard, right, for him in particular with the competition and just in general. Like, he's got to show more. That I think Brad's had the line here recently is like, make me play you. Like, show me that I need you out on the court based on your energy level, your execution, not making mistakes. And to be frank, Carey has not been in that category in terms of like, hey, they got to find a way to carve out this role for him. Brian says, love this team, and the offense is talked about so much, as it should be, but this team is where they're at by its rebounding, in my opinion. That's a good point. Yeah, I know if you're looking really from game to game in a box score, you see how they are a lot of times plus 10 in the rebounding battle, especially here recently in a lot of games, getting those second chance opportunities on the offensive glass, which Brad always hangs his hat on as a staple for what they do offensively. And then defensive rebounding wise, we've talked about their defense being ahead of where a lot of people expected, but part of the formula for them to be a top 15 defense, you look at their KenPom, they're 6th in the country in defensive rebounding rate. They're a lot of their metrics, no matter what category, you look at effective field goal percentage defense, 3-point defense, 2-point defense, on down the line. They don't give up a lot of threes in general, but limiting teams to one shot and out is huge, and not giving up those putbacks, those offensive rebound and kick out for three. A lot of times that can be the easiest way to get a three ball is off of a second chance. So that's something that this team has done at a really, really good level, and credit to them on that for sure. If you want tickets for Illini basketball, we've got